The following broadcast is sponsored by Dr. Scott Eisenberg.
It's your life, it's your heart. Smarter Heart University, your institution for higher heart learning without the confusion, where everyone can get a passing grade in life. Attend Smarter Heart University with Dr. Scott on AM 970, The Apple.
Good morning. This is your Smarter Heart University. I'm your host, Dr. Scott. With me today is my co-host and cardiology partner, Dr. Robert Kaiser. Good morning, Bob.
Morning, Scott.
Today, class, we will discuss I left my heart in Napa Valley, or otherwise known as to drink or not to drink. That is the question. And certainly after last night, drinking the wine that I drank, for the birthday celebration for Danielle and Christine and Kevin. Happy birthday, guys. I learned a lot from this lecture. Maybe I shouldn't have had that much wine. Some housekeeping. Callers, 866-970-9622. Maybe we'll be able to take your calls today. We'll have to see. As always on this show, we learn a lot. Website. Is almost fully integrated, our website. All the Smarter Heart University shows for anytime listening and viewing on YouTube, as well as some of the press shows that I've done in the past on Seabrook Today and Health News on Channel 12, should be up fairly soon that you can view, and they're all educational. Our Facebook site is up and running. We have 163 members. We're blogging daily. We have a discussion board, and your questions can be answered at any time by Dr. Kaiser and myself. And remember, whether it's listening to our shows or signing up on our Facebook site or on our website, which you can now do and get the same type of blogging that we get on we do on our Facebook, you heard it about the heart here first. Even before CNN, even before everybody else, you're going to get it first. Now, let's talk about alcohol. Alcohol is an old drug. It's been around since the pharaohs in Egypt had stories of winemaking on their walls of the temples. Scientific debate has been around about its benefit. It started years ago in Europe, centuries ago. In fact, how much, what type, who should be drinking has been questioned and studied for years without the greatest answers. But the overall theme has always been that high doses of alcohol have been harmful to the heart, and mild to moderate quantities are associated with a reduction in heart disease and your overall total mortality. Today, we're going to discuss what heavy drinking, or greater than 3 drinks daily, does to the body and the heart, and it's way more than you think, guys. We will discuss the protective aspects of lighter drinking, what we call the biological effects of alcohol, but also the non-alcohol beneficial components. Now, the major conflict is out there suggesting that wine is more protective against vascular disease than liquor or other spirits like beer. And this may be even more so with the so-called non-alcoholic components. You got to stay tuned for that. Now, class, you're listening to a serious wine person here. I've been collecting for 18 years. So what we're about to review should make me breathe a sigh of relief for my arteries, right? Well, I'm going to let everyone out there listening be the judge after we're finished. So our popular question on Smarter Heart, as we always do when we open up this show, is I have a high risk for heart disease. Should I start drinking some wine? Well, most reviews and guidelines, unfortunately, you'll find, warn of not prescribing alcohol for those who do not drink already. So really, folks, until a large trial where one group drinks and the other one doesn't, there's no the question really can't be answered to drink or not to drink. But we're going to go on with the debate today. By the end of it, hopefully someone will come up with an answer. Now, the late 1990s, Bob, showed a bevy of worldwide endeavors to look at alcohol and cardiovascular disease. Over 500,000, 500,000 people have been studied all this time, showing that an average of 1 to 2 drinks per day decreases our dying by up to about 40%. But more than that, showed a sharp increase the other way. Now, how does alcohol protect, first of all? The mechanisms have been extensively postulated and studied. 3 major. 1, alcohol causes an increase in your good or your HDL cholesterol, and this may account for about 50% of the benefit. We have 2 types of good cholesterol. We think of them in our change of heart cardiology practice as the shovels that dig out the dirt. That's your bad cholesterol. A lot more on that next week. Large HDL, that's one type, are the working shovels that dig it out effectively, and small HDL are not as functional shovels. They're there, they don't work as good. Moderate alcohol intake increases the small HDL, but leaves the large alone, or it may increase slightly the large HDL cholesterol. What does heavy alcohol do? Consumption? The opposite. Lowers your good HDL cholesterol. You lose your protection. A lot more on that next week. Alcohol keeps your platelets, number 2, from clumping together in a manner similar to aspirin. So it keeps clots from forming in your arteries. Other major clotting factors in the blood are also reduced by alcohol. And lastly, alcohol stops the development of plaque at its earliest stages. Yes, it does. Studies looking at consuming alcohol or not, and coronary angiograms, what Dr. Kaiser and I both do, like catheterization, show less detectable blockages in those who consume, again, moderate alcohol. What do you think?
Well, it's very interesting, this data on alcohol, and I'm sure we'll talk about the French paradox, this idea that the French
That's our pop quiz.
Yeah, have a rich diet and yet have potentially less heart disease. And what is it about alcohol or wine that potentially protects us? And in doing my research, there is maybe some data on grape juice. And whether or not it's grape juice can protect you or wine can protect you is, to just a not simple. I mean, wine is a very complex fluid. And does this do anything for us?
Well, and again, we're leading into the second part, which is great. Is it the grape or is it the alcohol? So it's a good lead into the next topic. But the fact of the matter is, to drink or not to drink. And so we have a couple minutes before we go to the next segment. And so it gives us enough time to discuss that, you and I, upon reading it and upon always, being asked the question, is it the wine or is it the alcohol? And so that's going to be the topic of discussion for the rest of the show. And as I alluded to, I'm not really sure the answer has ever been found. Wine, there are those that say, is it the wine makers, the wine companies and the beverage distributors that kind of produce this? Is it the wine makers and the vineyards themselves that do the studies themselves? So what you've got now is we're going to talk about a special molecule that a lot of people are probably salivating and wanting to hear what we have to say about. And is it the special molecules, special the biological or entities about grapes that do this? Yeah. Because then you got certain people on CNN that talk about Welch's grape juice and protecting your heart. They actually may not be totally wrong.
Exactly.
But see, this is the thing about Smarter Heart University, folks. What we want to get to is the difference between what people tout as being effective and what's been studied in what we call evidence-based medicine. We did that our first show, and I urge you to go back and listen to that because you're going to get these studies that come out and they're skewed towards making a finding that they can substantiate claims, and you can say, okay, they say this, so therefore it must be true. And it has to do in this situation with the components of wine being now bottled in capsules. And even I kind of initially succumbed to that type of rhetoric when I did my studies in training and fellowship in integrative medicine, because they were very, very big in the cardiovascular world, looking at these aspects about longevity and about genes. So we're going to talk a little bit about that the next segment because it's so profound and so darn interesting that there's the article after article comes out. But the question is, should you drink or not? And really what it all boils down to is the length of time that you're consuming wine. So I'm going to give you guys a hint of what's going to be at the end of this show. Is it the length of time that someone is consuming wine in moderate amounts, or is it the quick fix? I really, personally, I'm going to tell you right now that, the answer to our popular question, really, you shouldn't start. I mean, basically what we said is that the evidence and the American Heart Association says that is not the way we want to proceed down that road. Okay,
and the key is also with it's moderate alcohol use.
Yes,
it's
yes.
not.
We're going to have to say that a lot today.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's been our theme: is everything is in moderation. It's if we're talking about people who already drink, it's moderate. If you're drinking a 6-pack a day or a 12-pack on the weekend, well,
actually, we've got a great pop quiz on that one too. We've got a great one. Yeah.
And the detrimental effects of alcohol, we have to always keep that. There's this thing about, there's some alcohol it may be beneficial, but too much is, again, a bad thing.
Well, but again, I want to say that what we're going to present to you today in the next 3 segments. Again, study-wise, it's all about that which has been very well evidence-based produced. I want everybody to understand whenever we talk of any show that we do, we're not coming from little studies that just kind of trend. So our pop quiz, here it is, the so-called French paradox that wine is most cardioprotective based on that less French people die from drinking wine despite a higher, what is this, carbohydrate diet, fat diet, or protein diet. So the French don't die less because of carbohydrates, fat, or proteins, and drinking. So which one is it? We'll be back on your Smarter Heart University when we come right back on
More
AM
Dr.
970.
Scott and Smarter Heart University is on the way on